Hello, my name's Joey Chang. I'm on the sales team at Rock the Bike, and today we have our founder, Paul Freedman, as well as Zach Cramer from Blend Bikes. Welcome, Zach.
Thank you. Excited to be here and talk to all you guys over at Rock the Bike.
Right on. So, tell us a little bit about your story and how Blend Bike came to exist.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been bartending for nearly 10 years at the time when I started Blend Bike. And it was during the pandemic, like a lot of people, we had to kind of shuffle our feet and reinvent ourselves. I was bartending in New York City at the time, which had very strict COVID lockdown regulations, like I'm sure you did in California. Being that way, restaurants were shut down for a long time, and I didn't have any income and needed something to do. So I was brainstorming, thinking of like projects I could do. What should I try to do to occupy my time at least that's productive, if not like a financial business venture. And brainstorming, I literally wrote down a bunch of ideas. And one of them dates back all the way to like 2014. I was living in Australia at the time, and I saw a guy making smoothies or cocktails, I don't know what, on a bike. And he was just doing it on the beach. It didn't look like a commercial thing. I didn't have any signage, but I thought like that is so cool. What if I tried to make that like a little side hustle or business? And then had forgotten about it for years and years. And then when trying to come up with an idea for something to at least occupy my time during COVID, that came up, and it just got a lot of momentum from there once the ball started rolling.
So, did you just go online and type in bike blender? Were you like trying to buy one, or were you gonna make one, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was playing around with the idea of like what to do, how to do it. So I did a lot of research, saw that there were some people, especially like you and a few others out there that were doing this. And I had seen through an Instagram post of yours that a guy in Australia, which kind of connected back to like where it all originated for me, was doing it in Melbourne, I believe. And he was using a Yuba. So I kind of really liked the style of his. I liked the ability that he could ride to the events and kind of was mobile. So I wanted to kind of run off that. And I thought that I could do some things of my own that would improve the concept.
Wow, cool. So that's your bike in your background there. That's a Yuba Mundo cargo bike.
That is a Yuba Mundo cargo bike that I modded. As you see, it has cabinets and a table and an oversized front basket with a cooler. And yeah, that thing rides around.
Wow. So,
Was the
how,
original person that you saw in Australia the same person that we had linked on Instagram or a different person?
It was definitely a different person. It was very faint memory. It was just one of those things I saw in passing, almost like at a beach. I can't even remember exactly where, but I don't believe it was the same person.
so there,
Okay, because I think I know the person that we were linking to in Melbourne because it's a personal connection.
Okay.
But that was not the person that initially gave you that nugget of,
No, I saw it in Sydney, so it wouldn't have been the same person.
okay, cool.
so how long did it take for you to build that cart portion over the back of the Yuba bike?
Yeah, the cart portion specifically was probably the most complicated because I hadn't seen anyone do it and I was just trying to figure it out. So I'd say it took me like at least a month, almost 2 months, but that's mostly due to ordering something, finding out it didn't work, going to a store, buying something, trying to put it on a bike, didn't like the way it looked, and kind of going back and forth. If I had to do it again, I could do it in a week's time.
Mm-hmm. And what was the materials cost on that?
Um, to mod the U-boat and
Yeah.
everything, I'd say like 500.
Okay, so not too bad, not too
Not,
bad.
not too bad. If I had to redo it again, I think I could do it for like 500.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to take apart the whole bike, sand it down, and put it back together, which was a little bit of a daunting task because I'd worked on bikes a little bit, but never taken one all the way apart. Wasn't sure if I was going to be able to. put it back together, but I did.
Nice.
What do you use for a kickstand when you blend?
Originally I used these like plastic folding like step stools. And now I found a nicer version, which is like it's actually metal, but it has like a wood finish on the outside. It's just sturdier, stronger. I could put people that are over 300 pounds on my bike and not be scared.
So you put them under the side racks of the Munda?
Yeah, that's right. So in my picture, you can see here, right there is where the stools will go. People can use milk crates, but yeah, you have to lift for that bike to work. You have to lift the back tire. I usually have just like a half inch of clearance, like barely anything.
Did you custom paint?
Yeah, I did. I found a website, a company called Spray Bike or spray.bike.us or something. And they have like powder coat finishes and some paint that's designed to customize a bike. You can do crazy patterns, but I just like to go with a straight color for this one.
It looks great.
They sent supplies to you, or did you have to bring them the bike?
I did it myself. I just ordered the paint and did it literally under a bridge in New York City. I had to like go to an outdoor space that was like nearby because I couldn't do it in my apartment or I'd suffocate from the fumes. So I just took it out under a bridge because it was kind of sprinkly the week that I was doing it. So just spray painted it there.
Heck yeah, DIY. So moving on to talk about like your marketing and your advertising, how do you get gigs?
Yeah, definitely. So I first started getting gigs doing like marketing online. And I used a website called Thumbtack. They're a website that you can book services for, and people will, for my services, they'll either Google like private event bartender or like or not smoothie, like a food or beverage cart for events or food trucks. And then I would come up as an option as a profile that they could see.
Oh, okay. Smart. Thumbtack. I've heard of that. I've used it.
Yeah.
So do you do like physical advertising as well, or is it all digital?
Other than me physically being somewhere and people seeing me, it's all digital. I don't have a billboard or posters up over town.
So word of mouth is super important to your business then. Can you talk about how word of mouth plays out in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Word of mouth is super important for my business and what I do. Through working events, people will ask the host of a previous event, like, where do you find this guy? How can I get them? And that's a great word of mouth. Another great word of mouth is when I'm at events, I try to like network with other vendors and say like, oh, you do sushi. Like maybe I'll get an event a booking later on and they'll ask me if I know a person that can do food. Or so I try to be friendly with other like local businesses too, and kind of like help each other out whenever possible. And that's another great way to get bookings.
Very smart. So do you get a lot of inquiries like direct through your website? And did you build the website before you started doing the gigs, or did you think after you did gigs, oh, I need a website?
Yeah, the website came a little bit later. It's a little bit like something new for me, and I didn't want to like invest that time initially before I knew that I could even do it. Like being a vendor, a drink vendor. So I got the website probably 4 months into it. My wife actually is a photographer and she has her own photography website and she did it herself. So I saved a lot of costs by having her kind of hop on and do it for me. And I think it's ready for a revamp, but yeah, I got a pretty nice website at the moment.
Cool. So where do you do bike blending? Like, you do private events, but you also do some public events, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So we do private events through clients booking us, and those are always in like a set package rate. So we kind of, whether it's cocktails or smoothies, kind of give it like a maximum, or with cocktails, it's sometimes unlimited. And then with public events, we just, there's usually an organizer of a public event, whether it's like a local festival or a farmer's market. And we just do individual transactions there. There's usually some type of a vendor's fee. And we just go there and hope for the best.
Okay. So do you find that you get a lot of private clients by showing up at farmers markets and other events that are just for the public?
Yeah, definitely. I always try to like market myself. I have business cards on our bar and bike when we're doing like farmers markets, and whenever I have a spare moment to mention, I always say like we do private events. It's great for kids parties, for smoothies, or a full blown cocktail party by the pool.
Nice. So do you ever do pop-ups where you're not necessarily invited? You just kind of like, oh, there's a big street fair happening. I'll just show up and bring my stuff and see what happens.
At least where I live in Miami, they would not really enjoy me just showing up. So it's definitely more of back and forth of seeing if they have space for me to set up and what kind of vendor fee is associated. So no, never just pull up to something going on.
Okay. Are there any
follow-up there also, which is like with the public events that you're doing in Miami, can you talk about the way that you meet the health requirements? Like what are some of the steps that you've taken? How often do you have to actually apply for a health code permit for that event or series of events?
Yeah, sure. I've never had to apply for a health code permit. I do have something called the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, FDACS, and they gave me a license to be like a mobile food vendor at markets and flea markets, farmers markets, and beyond. So I have real licensing through them. And then, yeah, I have a food handler safety certificate, which I needed to get before. I also have a commercial commissary kitchen, which was required for me to get the license from the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And
does that mean that you go somewhere to prep your gigs?
Yeah, I do. I prep on site when it's possible, but really with using frozen ingredients, I usually prep in a commercial kitchen. And then to finish off the question, I also had to get general liability insurance for liability, and of course like start an LLC. So there's all these things that go into making your business legit and safe and legal before you start.
Did you do that when you were like for your before your very first gig, or was this all for being at a farmer's market?
I really did all this before I did anything. It was a big commitment, but I just had the time and had the momentum with building the bike, and said like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right and legal. I don't want to get a fine or have like a negative mark on my business before it's even legit. So yeah, I did it all the right way, right away.
And was that just like a matter of calling up your county and finding the right department and saying, hey, what kind of licenses and certifications do I need?
Yeah, there was definitely that, and just like the preliminary like online research of how to do that. What step is this? And before I get this approval, what are the requirements I need to meet? And yeah, just went from there and just kind of followed step by step, called local services whenever a question arose.
Nice. Do you have any especially memorable gigs that you've done? Maybe there were celebrities or, an epic location or...
Yeah, definitely. It's like hard to just name one, but having the amazing privilege of being in Miami, Florida, the weather's great year round. So we do a lot of pool events, so whether it's at a hotel or in someone's backyard. We also often find ourselves at private events by a pool, which is very fun. And also some events that I've done were at private residences, which have like waterfront um, access as their like backyard. So I'm literally on the beach with the ocean behind me, serving up drinks, and those are always really fun. Uh, Top three would be like last year's Halloween parties. They were just crazy. And I just love people like going overboard with the costumes and having fun. And I dressed up myself. We did a huge like mansion event for like the Bitcoin side of Miami, and that was really like high end. We were doing really amazing drinks, and it was just a great experience. And then the third would be like bachelorette parties. They're crazy.
Mhm.
There's a lot of
Sounds like you have a lot of fun doing this job.
yeah, I definitely do. It's really cool. I pinch myself sometimes and say like, is this really my job?
So on the note of doing the Bitcoin Mansion, you said you were serving up some really amazing drinks. Do you want to talk a little bit about like your favorite smoothie recipes or your favorite alcoholic beverage, the blended?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All the recipes that we do for smoothies, I came up with myself. Some like pulling inspiration from other places and tweaking them as I felt needed. My favorite smoothie that we do is a coffee smoothie. It's like a frappuccino smoothie hybrid. It's got cold brew coffee concentrate that we brew ourselves with almond milk, peanut butter, banana, cacao nibs, and local honey, and it's so good. It's like smoothie frappuccino hybrid, a little bit decadent, and it definitely like packs a punch of caffeine, which helps me going through the day.
Uh-huh.
For cocktails, I like to always offer the option to do blended cocktails and non-blended cocktails because for certain events, especially where I'm the only bartender or bar service, I mean, then it's nice to give people the options to have a non-blended cocktail too. My favorite one would probably be our spicy dragon fruit margarita, which we use locally sourced red dragon fruit for. It has this bright neon, like radioactive, like purple color, but it's actually 100% natural, organic, and tastes awesome.
Wow, that
Also
sounds
known as pitaya, right?
Exactly. It's South American
Yeah,
countries.
but
Italian.
it doesn't have a particular strong taste. Like it kind of just has a blending taste. Is that true
Yeah,
for you?
yeah.
So
I would say it's a very light taste. It definitely I like that option to have that as a cocktail because it's just non-offensive. Like you barely taste the dragon fruit in it. So someone
mhm.
that has like it's still just a classic margarita with a little bit of extra taste and a whole lot of color, and you taste with your eyes sometimes.
mm.
Yeah, I've used watermelon to do what you're describing and basically adding some fruit to the margarita so it's not just blending the ice. But
Yeah,
some people like it, some people don't. Some people prefer the traditional margarita with no fruit.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when we do like strawberry margarita or strawberry daiquiri, we use whole frozen strawberries and just throw them in. And it definitely makes it so much better than using artificial strawberry mix.
When you use pitaya, do you use fresh or frozen?
I use frozen, but I buy it from a local farm, cut it, and freeze it
Mhm.
myself.
Oh, wow.
Quick question. Do you put ice in your smoothies or do you just let the frozen fruit be the ice component?
Minimal ice is the answer. You do not want to use a ton of ice. Otherwise, you'll have this kind of ice crystally texture to your drink, which just feels cheap and off. And then as it melts, it feels diluted because you're drinking water and not even ice at that point. So for certain recipes, I'll use a little bit more ice, but I would say less than 10% in all of my smoothies. Some smoothies I literally don't use a single cube of ice.
What about superfoods or powders like protein powders or stuff like that? Do you avoid those or do you throw those in?
Yeah, I leave it as an option. It's kind of an upcharge, a way for me to make a little bit more money on each smoothie. With the exemption of one smoothie, we have a green smoothie, which is called the vitamin C. It's got spinach, kiwi, strawberry, banana, coconut water, and sea moss. And sea moss is definitely like a trending, you could say superfood or supplement. Has naturally occurring collagen, and it's vegan, which is hard to find. Usually it comes from animal products in terms of micronutrients. So that's one that has it always. And then we use in unflavored protein powder, but it's always an optional upcharge.
I see. So what are the considerations that you have to keep in mind for doing an alcoholic beverage service?
Um, just like in a normal bar, you can't overserve people. You have to make sure everyone is of age to drink alcohol, and for it is a case to case basis, um, but how it works exactly. But as like a general rule, the host has to provide the alcohol when, as we operate our business, whether that's a hotel or a at a private residence, the host of the party. We help aid them with a suggested shopping list based on the number of guests, number of hours, and drinks that are going to be on the menu that day, and they have to provide it.
Okay. And do you find that you make more money doing the alcoholic beverage service or the smoothies?
It honestly depends. It would seem obvious that alcohol would be more, but it's really case to case basis.
Wow. Okay. So talking about business, got a lot of questions for you here. I just kind of want to breeze through them. What do you think your startup cost for this business was roughly?
Between $30,000 and $40,000.
Okay, so not crazy, but also a pretty good chunk of change to throw in to start this business.
When I started, I didn't know it was going to be quite that much, but it's working out now.
Nice. So how's it going in terms of paying back on that initial investment, and how's the business going?
It's going good. It took me 6 months of like really kind of breaking even, which for a lot of other businesses, it's not that fast. So I felt pretty good about that. The first, I'm on my second year now. The first year, I really didn't make too much money, but I was happy doing what I was doing. It was exciting times. I was learning and setting myself up for success for this year. And this year, we've done $100,000 in profit and like $150,000 in sales right now, which is pretty epic. And I'm pretty proud of myself for where it's at. And I hope to just keep seeing it growing.
Yeah, dang, you should give yourself a pat on the back for that. That's amazing. So you often talk about we. Do you have employees? Do you have helpers? Do you have contractors? Is it a one-man
Yeah,
show?
absolutely. So for the majority of our events, I really am a one-man show. I've over the last 2 years gotten really efficient at handling like small and medium-sized jobs by myself. I've learned that I can be all it takes, but of course, I can't be everything for these huge events. So I contract on other staff to jump on for these events. And as it continues to grow, I hope to get like more of a full-time employee lineup so we can kind of expand. But to answer the question, it is mostly me, but for huge events, we have up to 3 additional staff on being a team of 4 for these large events. We've done huge like corporate events with like 600, 700 smoothies. And yeah, it gets to be a lot. But
Uh-huh.
we have 2 bikes now. That
Oh,
bike that bike is our main baby, but we do have a bike just like the one behind you that we also use for yeah, that it's green too. It's even green. So yeah,
fender blender.
we have 2 bikes and 2 bars right now, so we're able to do large events that require more bicycles and bigger bar space, and we can also do 2 simultaneous events now because we have the full setup for 2 booths.
Wow, that's amazing. So now you have 2 bikes. Where do you store all your stuff?
I have a storage unit.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
All right.
Just a typical
Nice.
storage unit. Nothing fancy.
Um, so uh do you have do you have are there certain things that you love about your bike blending business, and then are there certain challenges in running the business?
Yeah, I like the learning aspect that I've gotten to this far. I've learned a ton, and I overall, like, the key point is I really love just like bringing something new to people and just like watching their smile, watching them. Sometimes people order a drink and then see that I invite them on the bike and are confused, and they're just like, what's going on? It's just so fun to like watch people like laugh and be surprised and just be engaged in a way that's something that could be like pretty mundane, like ordering a smoothie. And having this whole like fun interactive aspect and watching your family member or friend hop on the bike and make it, it's really rewarding to like bring smile and joy to people's faces. As a bartender, I always cared about the experience of it, because you can, your favorite bar or restaurant isn't the place that has the best food. It's really the place that like gives you the best feeling, makes you leaving there happy. And that's what I try to do with my services, is give people like an amazing experience and feeling, while also providing top quality products.
Hmm. So what's challenging about running the business? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel like, I'm like in over my head, or?
It's a lot of moving parts. When doing like certain events, there's like a million things I need to bring, and if one thing is off, it's kind of like, oh, I should have forgot this or that. So I have a checklist and I just go through it, which helps save the day a lot of times. And yeah, it's cool. There's challenging parts to it, but overcome them. Just have to work hard, grind, sacrifice a lot of weekends, and because that's when most events are, be it a market or a private event. So if you value your weekends, maybe this isn't the right job for you. But if you're happy to go hang out and go to a beach or go to a park on a Wednesday when everyone's working, this is perfect.
Nice. So, um, can you talk a little bit about how you think about pricing and what your strategy is around setting your prices?
Yeah, for private events, I have four factors basically that combine to a sum of cost, because everyone's event is so different depending on their needs, from the number of guests they have, the number of hours, the number of bikes. So I have four factors. The first one being the bar and bike rental. The second one being the staff. It's a number of hours combined. The third one would be any travel costs associated with it. I say within 25 miles of where our home base is, it's free, and then it goes up from there. And then the third one is the drinks. With these, I do a set package, so it would be in increments of 50. Like, and we also have three different sizes too, to add to options. So we have a 5 ounce, a 10 ounce, and then a 17 ounce smoothie. So these factors all come together to build a package. And then with cocktails, it's more of um, an unlimited package. And then we have like a standard, like classic cocktails, like a classic margarita. And then we have a premium, which would be like the dragon fruit margarita with a orchid flower garnish, just like over the top garnishes, premium waters and juices and stuff like that. And for pricing in like individual transactions, like a farmer's market, for example, I have a background in doing like costs of goods and stuff like that. I used to be a bar manager. And so I try to follow similar rules to what I learned there.
And that's something like you charge three times or some multiple of whatever the cost of the ingredients is?
Yeah, I'll keep my cost of goods a secret, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure that people that are watching this are just dying to know, like, well, what kind of money can, if I started my own bike blending business and I was able to get it up and running and it looked all professional and I did all of that work, like, what's the range of a typical private event?
Yeah, I used to do events that were like as low as 500, but I've learned to kind of value myself and my time more. So now we have a minimum of $1,000. We do a little bit less for like schools and nonprofits by booking, case by case by booking. But yeah, like starting at $1,000, we've done events that are upwards of like $5,000 for one day of bicycle blending, which is pretty epic.
Wow.
And yeah, it can range. I'm in Miami, in a metropolitan area where there's people with wealth and big corporations, and I think that definitely aids to it. And I'm definitely a little spoiled with a 365 of fairly warm weather. So it's definitely advantageous for being a mobile, often outdoor ice cold drink service to be somewhere with warm weather.
Yeah.
But for anyone that's looking to do this in a slightly colder climate, I think it could be awesome for seasonal work, especially because those people are really excited to get out and do things in the warm months because they can't in the winter.
Mm-hmm. So how often do you travel to a gig by bicycle, and how often do you use a motor vehicle?
I have never traveled to a gig by bicycle because I wanted to follow health safety regulations. And that means I have a portable sink. It's heavy, it has a self contained clean and then gray water. And I was never able to quite figure out a way to bring that on the bike. So my dream was to be like totally mobile and ride my bike around. But logistically and keeping things like sanitary and healthy, especially when I started this business during COVID, that was a very high concern for a lot of people. I've always driven to events, and I have a big truck, a cargo van that I am able to put everything into. So drive every time.
All right, but at least when you're at gigs, people are seeing a bike, and it makes them think about that bike that's gathering dust in their garage, and maybe they should get it out and go for a ride.
Yeah, I really hope so. I often ask, when is the last time you hopped on a bike before people hop on mine? And it's always fun to hear people's answers because some people will say 10 years, some people will say last week. But the good thing about what we do is this is like a gym bicycle, essentially. It doesn't require balancing techniques, and you'd have to really mess up to fall off. But it definitely kind of gets people back in that motion of riding a bike and thinking like, this is fun. Why don't I ride my bike more often? Or why don't I invite that friend that I haven't seen in a while? We could go on a bike ride instead of going to a restaurant or something. Just puts that idea in people's heads and definitely promotes like a fun physical activity, get your heart rate up, and it just brings joy to people. And honestly, like in my opinion, like exercise is like one of the strongest medicines for mental health and of course physical health.
I totally agree. Well, wrapping up here, would you recommend other people to get into this business? Are you concerned about like competition? I mean, maybe in Miami it's a big enough city, but maybe there's only room for one bike blender. And what do you have to say to people that are intrigued by this concept? Do you recommend it, that they would start it up?
Yeah, go for it. I think a high tide raises all ships is a saying I like, where if everyone, it goes up, it helps everyone. I invite anyone to try, even in Miami, hop on. It's a fun job. It is work, just like anything. There's definitely a physical labor aspect to it, setting up a bar and a bike and hundreds of pounds of fruit and juices and ice and such. But in saying that, it's well worth it. I've never been a guy that wanted to have a desk job, and this is absolutely not a desk job. So it's really fun. And if you want to do it, just write down some numbers, see what could be, and start smaller maybe, and just go from there and see how it's happening. Also, if you wanted to like supplement this business, getting into like traditional bartending where you don't have the bike, or just having a lemonade stand or something that like kind of supplements the business, where you can kind of do like two things, have your feet in two different like sides of the street. It helps a lot, just like how I do smoothies and cocktails.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we learned a ton. It was really great to be able to meet over video chat with you and learn all about your business.
Yeah, it was awesome speaking to you guys, legends of bike pedaling, and yeah, it's
We
awesome
were
to
gonna, I'm sorry about that.
get in.
We were gonna ask if you had any questions for us, and then I had one or two more business questions for you.
Yeah. Questions for you. Like the easiest one is like, how do you get started? I googled you a little bit before. I saw you used to rap on bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
Is
For
that how
bike
it started?
lending, it wasn't me. It was a friend that I was sharing a workshop with, and he was doing similar business model to you, kind of focused on festivals. It was called the Juice Peddler. It was my friend Nate Byerly, and then I was like supporting as a friend, because when he would do a gig, you know how it is. So we
Mm-hmm.
would need 3 or 4 people, and then he started getting the private inquiries for both the bikes and services. So we ended up taking over his business in 2008, because he wanted to do something else with his life at that point.
Cool.
Specifically, him and his girlfriend got pregnant, and he wanted to get a more stable income versus an entrepreneur's income. So that was when we took over the bike blending business and made it our own. He was already calling it the Fender Blender. We started calling it the Fender Blender Pro, because we were having the different models, like the one that you have, the Fender Blender Mundo.
Mm-hmm.
And then as for how it kind of integrated with the musical side, because I was doing the street performing like you were mentioning, I'd say a good example of that was when we were hosting our own nonprofit music festival in San Francisco, the Bicycle Music Festival. And we would have, as a fundraiser at the music festival, we would have a smoothie stand. And that's where we would be featuring the bike blenders while live music was happening that we were organizing. So that was kind of a cool way of bringing it all together.
Don't
So my question for you, like on the business side, Zach, is like, it seems like you would do these public events to get the word out, and then at a certain point you would have enough private inquiries that they sort of just continue through word of mouth to keep coming in. And my thinking is that those would be better from a business standpoint, but I was wondering if you could speak to that. Is it true that at a certain point the private ones are just kind of where it's at, or do you feel like there's an inherent advantage in sticking with your farmers market appearances, both revenue wise or to sustain a certain amount of incoming inquiries?
Yeah. So fortunately, the markets that I'm involved in are really flexible for me. I'm sure some markets are in certain areas are going to say like you're signing up for 6 months, or if you miss 2 weeks, you're out, something along this nature. But luckily, they allow me to kind of come and go as needed, which allows me to do private events as much as possible, and then supplement kind of like a safety net to do these markets to keep income coming in for a Saturday or a Sunday. Private events are definitely the way to go. If I could do only private events, that would be awesome. It would be better for my business. But it's not the case of 52 weekends a year that I have bookings. And mentioning that, I do get booked more and more weekdays now, which is great, mostly for like health and wellness, like corporate events, and as well as a few other different things. But private events are where it's at for sure. And then if it's a little bit more of a gamble, but these like bigger festivals can be amazing, but also you don't. It's hard to gauge with private events. know how many people are going to be there or roughly, and how much materials to bring and how much to charge. And even if something isn't used, you charged for it, so you're walking out okay. But with these big festivals, it can be high risk, high reward, where you could bring so much product and be ready for battle on the smoothie bikes, selling a million smoothies, and then the expected turnout for the weather just isn't in your favor, and vice versa. You can be incredible when you just have a huge line and all these people are waiting to get your drinks and you're selling out even early in the day. So, but yeah, private events are where it's at. I'm gonna continue to try to marketing myself more in private events and hopefully drift further and further away from farmers market. But for someone that's starting this business or looking into doing it, it's the place where you can test out, get real-time feedback from how you're doing, learn from your mistakes. Because if you're booking with a private client for $1,000 or $1,000 and something goes wrong or you're not on your game, it's going to be way different than if you mess up one person's smoothie at a public market.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Question for you guys is, how often are you personally running events, and do you guys do many private events? It seems that you guys are doing a lot of sales and rentals of the bikes, but how often are you getting booked for private events that are not like your own run festivals?
It's the majority of our event work. Personally, I will go and do bike blending 5 to 10 times a year.
Okay.
5 times a year. Joey?
I've done a lot of events in the last few months, like mostly like health and wellness fairs and company parties, like employee appreciation day, where they go out to a park and have a barbecue and they bring us out. I don't know, probably about 10 events in the last 3 months or so.
Nice.
Like
We don't put on public events like you're describing, where you go to a
Okay.
farm market.
Yeah.
The closest thing that we do would be we have a concert that we do every year that's a block party here in Oakland, and they hire us to do a pedal powered stage where there's 10 people powering the music. And at that event, because it's going to be in the street in the sun, we always bring smoothie stuff to be giving away to continuously have goodwill in our space and make kids happy and families happy. And if someone's pedaling in the sun, we can offer them a cold smoothie. It just really takes things over the top in terms of creating a vibe of celebration, gratitude. And so we will end up giving away smoothies at a event where we're being hired for music.
Nice. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
One more question. I saw you have a bike that the entire frame lights up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little about that and maybe a little bit more exciting new products that you guys are tinkering with and can give us a sneak preview of?
Yeah, that illuminated bike blender is it's really good for margaritas because it's the right color for margaritas, and it in a darkened space, it creates a electric moment when someone's making the margarita. It puts them as the star of the show even more than what you're used to with the bike blender, because it's just like everyone turns. And so it's like the moment of anticipation as they're blending. And we only have a single custom one of them. We're entertaining trying to do a small run of them, like 5 to 10 more. And they would probably cost 2 to 3 times more than what we charge for our average for the Fender Blender Pro. And because they're going to be handmade for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you had the right event for it, we would potentially ship it to Miami, although we haven't done that yet. We have not shipped it out of town yet.
Cool.
But
Hold
if
on
you
to
have
that.
the right event for it, like a really fancy pool party, then we would potentially ship it to Miami for the rental.
Awesome. I'll keep it in mind. I'll
Yeah.
ask if anyone has, if a client ever asks me if I have any like tricks up my sleeve, I might bust that out.
Mhm. Yeah, and then also you could do that with any Fender Blender Pro by getting the off-the-wall wheel. So then that would be a electric Fender Blender Pro because it would be bike blending with mechanical power and electrical generating with the off-the-wall wheel at the same time. Then you could use the off-the-wall wheel to power the light and make the ground glow underneath it with this new product that we have called Here We Glow. So as long as we're talking about off-the-shelf options, you could have an off-the-shelf path to having a light that turns on only when someone's making the margarita.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Right now with my my Fender Blender Pro, I bought I don't know what the product's name is, but it's a light that hooks up along the rim on the outside of the rim,
Mhm.
weave it through the spokes, and
Nice.
yeah, and so yeah, when biking at nighttime, we have the front wheel illuminated. It's pretty
Do
cool.
you
I
have,
haven't shared that with the world yet, but we've done it already.
did you remove the wheel covers to do that?
Yes, the wheel cover has
Okay.
to be removed. So wide open, see-through spokes.
Cool.
Yep. And another thing that we're doing that's exciting, and I wanted to touch base on, it's something we've been working on is brand activations.
Mhm.
I know you guys do the wheel cover hub,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I've found like local printing companies that can do it on the fly, or I even do it myself. And with my Yuba Mundo, we cover the whole that whole signage with other companies' brands, and
Mhm.
it creates like a really great brand awareness. Is great for booking and working with clients, corporations that want to get their product known or show that they are sponsoring the the smoothie bike at the event. It's
Mhm.
pretty cool. But yeah, it's an exciting world. It's so cool to talk to other like-minded heads, and
Mhm.
you guys have been doing this since you said 2008.
Yep. That's when we took over the bike blender business, but then we were actually supporting that since about 2005.
That's incredible. It's a
Mhm.
legacy.
Yep. Yep.
Right on. Well, thanks so much for your questions, Zach, and thanks so much for sharing all these details about your business. This has been amazing and can't wait to share this with the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to talk about it. If anyone has any follow-up questions, feel free to shoot me a DM at BlendBike on Instagram. I'll
Hell
try to help
yeah.
you out. And yeah, absolutely a pleasure. Cool opportunity to connect with you guys. And for anyone out there that's listening, I continue to buy Rock the Bike products to support my business. And it's a cool partnership that we have. And without you, I wouldn't be in business. That's the Yuba Mundo hookup that we have on the bike behind me, powered by Rock the Bike.
Right
Mhm.
on. Blend Bike.
Bye
Thanks so
bye.
much, you guys. All right, I'm
Thank
gonna,
you. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you guys.
stop this
Pleasure.
recording.